I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. The Kansas City Chiefs played like straight up garbage as the Denver Broncos officially snapped their 16-game losing streak against the Chiefs. But with that, the Chiefs are still 6-2 on the season. But we're going to wrap our heads on around what the hell happened on Sunday. With that, let's cut the chit chat and let's have some fun. Now, after that pitiful performance that the Kansas City Chiefs displayed against the Denver Broncos this Sunday, you already know I have a lot to say. But the first thing I want to thank is Chiefs Kingdom, or anyone who checked into my live stream. I think yesterday was the first time that we eclipsed over 700 views total. That is huge for this channel and greatly appreciated. I hope it wasn't just because I was losing my mind and watching this team lose, because if that's the case, I hope it doesn't happen frequently, because I don't like watching this team lose. But as I mentioned, I am very grateful for it. It's always a fun time getting to know everyone and just having good conversations, whether it be about the Chiefs or just football in general. And as you know, y'all better have your alarms on bright and early for this Sunday, because we're going to Germany. 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. Yeah, that's right. Bright and early. Y'all better be ready. Dolphins, Chiefs, I'm going to be live streaming, play by play. You're going to catch me all groggy. Hopefully the Chiefs don't put me in a mood, because I'm already going to be angry because I probably haven't had breakfast. So it's going to be an interesting morning nonetheless, but it may be the matchup of the year. These are two of the best in the AFC, so it should be fun. Now with that, let's get down to the nitty gritty of the Chiefs, Broncos, and what happened. And honestly, you know how I usually start it off. We talk about the bad before we get to the good. Well, we don't have that much good to talk about. So let's discuss the good. And let's discuss someone who's been Mr. Consistent this year. And it is Harrison Butker, the guy who put up the only points for the Kansas City Chiefs. The guy who made the Kansas City Chiefs feel like there was life in the game when there really wasn't any. He was Mr. Clutch. He has been put in positions this year where you don't think he's going to make a kick, and he drills them. He hasn't missed a kick all year. He hasn't missed an extra point all year. And man, it's been a thing of beauty. It's been a complete 360 from last year, and it is a beautiful sight. And I'm glad he is healthy and looking his best, and having this special teams at top notch. And you just got to give him his flowers, because I think 2 games this year, and I think they're both the Denver Broncos, where he literally kept them in the game when the Chiefs had no business being in it because the offense didn't show up. So special teams has been a huge part of this Kansas City Chiefs 2023 team. Now, transitioning to another good, which is going to get shadowed, thrown under the covers, and it is George Karlaftis. He played phenomenal yesterday, and it sucks that the Kansas City Chiefs lost, and it sucks not a lot of people are going to be covering it, because he was relentless. He had that high motor that everyone praises. He had 2.5 sacks. He made sure that he was going after Russell Wilson, and he was constantly in the backfield. He has 6 sacks on the year. That's all the sacks he had his rookie year. He's on pace for 12 this year. This dude is coming into his own at the perfect time. The Kansas City Chiefs need another consistent pass rusher. And Charles Omenihu, he had half a sack as well. You may have 3 with Chris Jones, Omenihu, and George Karlaftis. The future looks bright for this defensive line. And another thing I wanted to highlight as well, with Nick Bolton being put on injured reserve, and then Willie Gay and Drew Tranquill briefly being out with injury in this game, Leo Chanel showed up and having a huge sack, and then having a couple tackles in the backfield as well. We talk about this depth time in and time out in this linebacking core, and it continues to show up. Now, most definitely, we're going to be monitoring the Willie Gay and Drew Tranquill injuries going into this Miami Dolphin game, because, yeah, you have depth. But if the dominoes and pieces continue to fall, there's no more depth. So hopefully they are ready to go and they are healthy. My main concern is with Willie Gay, because Drew Tranquill did come back into the game. If Willie Gay did come back, It was briefly. It wasn't much. I didn't see him much of the second half at all. So that is one I'm going to be highlighting throughout this week. And now, unfortunately, we got to talk about the ugly. And it is going to be covered on the offense. And it is going to be twofold. And I'm going to put blame on majority of play calling, which is coaching, and QB1, which is Patrick Mahomes. And now, Chiefs Kingdom, before I do this, I know it's gonna be a hot take, an unpopular opinion for most of Chiefs Kingdom, because we have a hard time throwing critiques, blame when it comes to Patrick Mahomes or when it comes to Andy Reid. But when it's due, you have to do it. When you see them at the top of their pedestal and you give them their flowers, that is great. That is perfectly fine. But when they play bad, they gotta be shown the same type of standard. And it's not fair to say, nope, they're GOAT, they can do no wrong. I get it. This is a different era and different timing, and most of Chiefs Kingdom isn't used to this. Actually, all of Chiefs Kingdom has never seen this, no matter how long of a fan you have been. But at the end of the day, there's levels and there are standards to this, and when someone plays bad, you got to hold them to the standard that you're used to seeing them play at. And what I'm going to do is play calling, Patrick Mahomes, let's throw it together. And we're going to start with play calling because I do not know what the hell is going on. I really don't. And we're going to go twofold a little bit with it because when this game kicked off, shortly before kickoff, reports came out that Patrick Mahomes had the flu. And you didn't know what type of game you were going to get from Patrick Mahomes. But majority of the Chiefs Kingdom thought, hey, Patrick Mahomes, he's the GOAT. So he's going to put up an MJ performance and give us a flu game. And that's why I say throw critique accordingly, because a lot of people aren't going to critique Mahomes because they're going to be like, he was sick, he had the flu. It was a tough, difficult situation. I get it. But if he played amazing, you'd be like, oh my God, that's my GOAT. He did the flu game. No one can beat him. So if you're going to hold him to that standard when he does good, you have to hold him to a standard when he does bad, unfortunately. I don't make the rules, but that's at least how I move. So that's how we're going to do it. But going back to that, the most frustrating thing I think for me in this game was Coach Reid and his play calling, because I just did not understand it. And I don't know how much you can switch up once you figure out your quarterback has the flu, if anything, but I do know you do have playmakers on this team. And one thing that was just mind-boggling in this kind of scenario, Isaiah Pacheco should not have seen the ball only 8 times. That is absurd. There is no way you should have expected to win a football game. Even if Patrick Mahomes was healthy, Isaiah Pacheco is at a point in his career and at the dominance he can show, he should see the ball between 15 to 20 times a game. It's unnecessary. It really isn't. Definitely when you're struggling to find a top option as a wide receiver, come on now. There's no excuse. Isaiah Pacheco has proved time in and time out he can pick up yards. And he even did it in the game, which was another thing that was making me go, what are we doing here? He was giving the offense life when he could, when Coach Reid let him. And I'm like, this isn't making sense. Why isn't he a consistent piece on this team? It was just mind-boggling. And that's why I'm going to throw play calling as my number one reason why the Chiefs didn't have a shot in this game. And then you focus on Mahomes. Like I said, I don't know if it was a flu or if it wasn't him just not in his groove, but man, he just didn't look uncomfortable. He didn't look comfortable. There you go. He was uncomfortable for the majority of the game. I don't know if it was because wide receivers weren't getting open. I don't know if it was because he didn't trust his O-line. We're going to figure out more when the all 22 comes out or when I get a more better grip on all that. But I do know I did see some underneath guys getting open that he wanted to make a play. And we know when Patrick Mahomes does that, he tries to play hero ball. And that's the most frustrating thing of all. When he feels like he's down far in the hole, he's got to get it all in one play. And that's just not the case. Pick apart the defense. Get into your groove and let's see what you can do. And he just didn't want to do that, which led to what? 2 interceptions, a fumble. He had 3 turnovers on his own as well. And that's what was really, really frustrating because you just don't tend to see Mahomes do that. Well, at least we're not used to, but it's becoming a custom, and I don't like it. And what I mean by that is in the last 4 games, Mahomes has had a turnover. That's got to knock off. And it's got to trim down quickly because you're going against a Miami Dolphins team who, if you give them the ball, they going to put up points. So that needs to basically be eliminated as soon as possible. I'm not doubting it won't be because he's still great. He's still the best quarterback in the league. And if I'm going to take anyone on my team, it is him. It just so happened it was a bad game. And it's unfortunate that it happened against the Denver Broncos team who we had a great streak with. So let's get into this game a little bit more. And I really had a bad vibe from this game from the jump, honestly. Like, before fact is like something just wasn't sitting right with me. And I don't know what it was, but I didn't want to be the one to say it, and I should have because I would have looked amazing, phenomenal. I would have known my team better than anyone else. But I thought that, I didn't want to say trap game, but I felt this would have been the game where it would have been snapped. Something did not feel right with me. And then when it was kicked off and when the Chiefs started with the ball on offense and the Chiefs went 3 and out and you saw that Denver Broncos D-line coming with attitude towards Patrick Mahomes and talking that trash and the Mahomes yapping right back at him, Denver Broncos were dialed in. They were tired of this. They were tired of being the little brother to the Kansas City Chiefs. They were tired of taking the ass whipping 16 times in a row. I don't blame them. And you also got to give them credit. Just because the Kansas City Chiefs didn't play at the top of their game, the Broncos took advantage of that and they made themselves look good. So you got to give them credit. But also, from the jump, it didn't look good. Offense never found a groove for 4 quarters. They had a couple moments where you thought there was going to be life, and then there just wasn't. And the huge moment, which us in Chiefs Kingdom typically think we're going to come back, is when Justin Reed blocked that kick. Everyone knew that the Kansas City Chiefs from that point were going to score a touchdown and everything was going to be A-okay and they would walk home with another slim division rival victory. And that just didn't happen because after that, I don't know if it was a turnover on that drive or what happened, a 3 and out, the offense just never got going. And then for everyone who thought it was going to get clicking, reality hit me when McCole Hardman fumbled that punt. It was like, yeah, this is over. This is just not our game. And we've had those before. Against the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl, against the Colts last year, against the Tennessee Titans when we lost 27-3. They tend to give us these performances. It doesn't mean the world is ending. I don't know what it means, but it definitely doesn't mean that because they've still made the Super Bowl. They still won the Super Bowl. They made it to AFC Championship games after these kind of performances. They sleep on their opponent, I would have to say, because they come in all lousy and thinking this is going to be a give me, and then you get a tougher game. We see each and every year where we get one of those. And this Denver Broncos game is the one. And that's why when people predict, oh, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to go undefeated before every season starts, it ain't never going to happen because we get all of these type of games. So that's where it just gets so frustrating and just mind-boggling to say the least. And once it just started rolling downhill, there was no coming back from it. We're all hopeful for it, but there was just never a chance. And that sucks. It really did. Because when you're hopeful, you think, okay, we can make a play. And like I said, it just didn't happen. But let's highlight the thing that everybody is critiquing and criticizing, and rightfully so, and it's the wide receiving core. Because they look like utter dog crap, and that's the best way to display it. Now, play calling has a lot to do with it as well. And what I mean by play calling is Rashee Rice. He got his most snap counts, which is great. Now, again, I don't know if this is a trust factor or not, and he did have a crucial drop in this game, but he also needs to see the ball more. Just because he has one drop doesn't mean stop going to him, because he had a beautiful short pass that he made upfield for 40 yards. When you get the ball in his hands, he is literally the yak king. So that is someone you definitely need to continue to develop trust with. And I know a lot of people, when they see that Rashee Rice drop, they're like, oh, it would have been a touchdown. I don't see it that way, but I don't know. I saw the open field, but I also saw 3 defenders there. He would have caught it, and I feel like he would have ran into him. It would have still been a good game, but I don't know if it would have been a touchdown. But let's talk about the one that would have been a touchdown, and it's Sky Moore. Now, at initial reaction, he dropped, and he didn't even drop it. It didn't even touch him. He just had terrible ball tracking and nowhere near the ball to haul in a beautiful over-the-shoulder, perfect placement throw by Patrick Mahomes to get them back in the game. And a lot of people saw afterwards like, oh, it was a difficult, it would have been a difficult catch because the defender pulled his left arm, I believe, which should have been called a PI. Listen, one, should have, would have penalties, even for the Chiefs, against the Chiefs, I don't really care nonetheless. That's in the past. But also, too, I'm going to let you know, even if his arm wasn't pulled, he was not catching that ball. Like, literally, if he wanted to make a play on the ball, his right hand could have at least touched the ball. That thing didn't even touch him. So I'm getting really frustrated with Sky Moore just for the fact he was someone I hyped so heavily during the preseason. And I look so stupid talking about it because I thought he was going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. I thought he was going to take that next jump. Now it's like, what are we even doing here? Like, you've had all the opportunities. Week in and week out, you are top 3 in snaps, and it's just not happening. And I don't know where to go from here. I'm never going to give up on the guy as long as he's on the team because I'm going to give everyone a shot. But it's like, man, if someone on this team deserves your snaps, maybe increase Hardman's snaps. They're already increasing Rashee Rice's snaps, but it's crazy. I don't know. I really don't know what to make of Sky Moore, and that's the most frustrating part of it all. And then I know a lot of people are also going to highlight MVS because he had a crucial fumble as well. And we're just like I mentioned, when the dominoes fell in this game, it was no stopping them. They were going to make that beautiful design on the floor, and the Kansas City Chiefs just weren't going to come back. And one of the MVS fumble highlighted as well, where he had a clutch catch, turned upfield, and fumbled. And then a lot of people were going to highlight too is, I think it was, the 4th and 22 or whatever it was when Mahomes threw it, and they're like, oh, that should have been a PI. I'm going to let you know, guys. Yes, it should have been a PI, correct. Kansas City wasn't going to do nothing after that. It's just plain and simple. They were not going to score. They were not going to win the game. So as much as you would have hoped the refs to help pull us and call the penalties that needed to be called, the Chiefs weren't going to do nothing with it. They didn't do anything for 3.5 quarters before that fact. They weren't going to do anything in the last 5 minutes. So as much as it sucks to see a penalty not called, blame the team for not putting up points beforehand and not actually making it more of a competitive game. But with the trade deadline looming, I know the main thing everyone is clamoring for is Brett Veach, please trade for a wide receiver. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I really do. It's not happening. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to run with the guys they have. Get used to it. It's unfortunate as it sounds, but also, what are you expecting? I see on social media everywhere. Trade for Mike Evans. Trade for Terry McLaurin. Trade for Michael Pittman Jr. Trade for DeAndre Hopkins. Trade for Andre Rison. Trade for Michael Irvin. Literally, that's the point we're getting to. But it's just not going to happen. One, the Kansas City Chiefs only have 5 draft picks next year. What the hell are they trading for? Brett Veach doesn't like to give up draft capital. It's not going to happen. And then they only have $3 million in cap space. While yes, you can make it shake and bake, if you traded for someone, you got to factor in next year, which they have $40 million in cap next year, but you got to sign Chris Jones, L'Jarius Sneed, Nick Bolton. Brett Veach is known. He is not going to hurt himself for something that is a benefit for now against the long haul. We've seen it time in and time out. Get used to it. You just got to hope these guys develop and they develop quickly. I know we're tired of hearing it, but it's got to happen. And my main front runner, as y'all know, is Rashee Rice. Now, maybe get Kadarius Toney more involved, but I think the thing that struggles in this receiving core and whole is not the trust, it's you don't have a legit outside threat. Most of these guys are slot guys, and you would think the Kansas City Chiefs would have known what they were doing when they were putting together this wide receiving room. But maybe they do. Maybe they're hopeful. We'll find out. But it was a frustrating game as the Kansas City Chiefs fell to the Denver Broncos by a final score of 24-9. I do got a lot more to say, but I'm also getting jambled with my words, and I don't want to make this video much more longer than it has to be, so I'll cut it off. If you do have comments, please jump down and below. We'll definitely discuss more. I love chatting with you guys, so hop in those comments. Please do subscribe to the channel because we do this on a daily. We love talking Kansas City Chief football. With that, I'm taking off. Y'all take care. Peace.